Hi everyone, my name is Judy Ramos and I'm a teacher in the Michigan Conference. And in this video, I'll be sharing an introduction to how to access and analyze the MAP NWEA testing reports and how to truly use that data to drive instruction in our classrooms. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to get started, we need to go to our MAP NWEA website, which we can access by typing in teach.mapnwea.org. It'll take us to the login page here, and we all should know our username and password for you teachers out there. And click login. All right, now we're in, and this is our home page. You'll probably recognize this, the Manage Test Sessions. We use this link when we administer our tests for our students, and all of the reports will be found on this link right here, where it says MAP Growth Reports. All right, so here we are on the Growth Reports page, and the first thing I want to draw your attention to is this link on the left under Norms and Comparative Data. It's going to take us to this document, the 2020 NWEA MAP Growth Normative Data Overview. These are basically the 2020 norms, the most recent norms that they have put out. I don't remember seeing it during the school year. So this is definitely a document we want to have downloaded and or printed and or laminated. They have the student achievement norms. So you look here, we have grades K through 12, the mean RIT scores, and the standard deviation for the fall, winter, and spring testing for all 4 subjects. And if you continue scrolling, we have the student growth norms. So as we know, the beauty of MAP testing is that it is a formative assessment. We want to see growth and we want to see our students learning. So we have these charts that tell us what the average growth we should have from fall to winter test, winter to spring, fall to spring, for all of the grades for the subjects. So every time our students take the test and we receive the results, we want to pull out these charts to compare how our students are doing to the rest of the country. As Adventist educators, we know that there is nothing more impactful than when there's a shared level of interest for the student in school and at home. And parent-teacher conferences are the time where we can get on the same page. This is where the family report comes in. So back on the growth reports page, you can find the family report. You'll select the term that you're wanting to share and look at in this information. All the subjects for the tests that you've taken. And it also has the projected proficiencies. So I would recommend that you leave all of these selected so that the family is able to see their students' readiness for these high stakes tests. All right, select all the students in the class if this is your first time doing it, and go ahead and create the PDF report. Once that's created, you can download it and print it, and it's ready to go for your parent-teacher conference. I'm just going to take a few moments to go over the family report. I found this sample on the website, and so I thought it would be useful to just kind of go over maybe some of the things we want to communicate with our families. The first being that MAP is an online adaptive test, and this is very different from the Iowa test, which is what many of our families are accustomed to because it is a formative assessment really measuring 2 things, achievement and growth. So those are the 2 areas you really want to hone in on. So the students, every time they take a test, are given a RIT score. So RIT stands for RASH unit, and the RIT scale ranges from 100 to 320. So from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, we actually use that same RIT scale. And so it really ends up giving us a good comprehensive picture of where the students are at as far as meeting the different standards for each of the grade levels and how they are growing not only throughout the school year, but their school years in general. So if we look on this sample report for Christopher Albert, who is not a real student, we have the series of graphs and charts. Now the reports are always going to be 2 pages long. And on the left-hand column, we have their achievement scores. Okay, so we'll have graphs that measure from test to test their RIT scores, okay, in a line graph here. And we have that for all the subjects, math, reading, and science, as you can see. So in this particular report for Christopher, we have his scores from fall of 2018 to fall of 2019. So we can see how he has grown. There's a little dip here for fall of 2019, but we can kind of understand this is after the summer. Sometimes over the summer, students lose a couple months of learning there. And on the right-hand column, we see his growth. So as we're comparing, in this case, fall of 2018 to fall of 2019, he had exceptional growth. So he's in the 96th percentile for growth. That's certainly something we want to celebrate and really use to encourage our students and families in that way. On these reports, we also have the projections for the standardized tests. And so Christopher is from Ohio. It'll share here he's likely to be basic on the Ohio State test. Of course, for us in Michigan, we would have the M-STEP. For the older students, it may have progressions for the PSAT, SAT, and ACT college entrance exams. If you keep scrolling towards the bottom, there are some guiding questions that can be shared with the parents, and this is excellent questions to kind of drive conversation in parent-teacher conferences. So if there are any areas of weakness, this is definitely time to collaborate, talk about what families can do at home, whether it's getting a tutor or what to work on over the summer, if there are specific areas of need, and certainly a time where teachers can share with the families what our plans are to help our students grow in these particular areas. So this is the family report. Now I'm going to be going over the class reports, and like it says here, it's going to analyze class needs by instructional area and view class performance for a term. So this is not a comparison. This will just give you one overall picture of how your students did on that one test. Okay, so you select the term roster for that year of students. You also are given options to look at other terms if you wanted to look back on other test dates. And you can just select one. If you are in a self-contained classroom. The subject, I just leave them all checked because I want to see all the subjects. These settings look good as is, so I will go ahead and create the PDF report. At this time, I'm going to briefly go over a sample class report, and this is also found right on the website, available to anybody who just clicks on that link. And so I just wanted to note a few things that are very specific to our schools that hopefully is helpful to you moving forward. And so like we mentioned before, the class report is going to be specific to when you took that test, and it will just give you an overall picture of your students' performance. So in this case, this is for the reading section. So there will be a report for every subject. They'll go over how many students, their mean RIT score, so you get an overall picture. Where are my students at? The median, RIT scores, and standard deviation. Now this gets a little tricky if you teach in multi-grade like me, because the next 4 sections talk about grade level. And if you do teach in a multi-grade, you'll notice that these last 4 are always blank because we teach more than one grade. So this is really where the 2020 norms, those charts I talked about earlier, come into play. We'll have to kind of compare manually with each of our students per grade level where they're at and how they compare to the nation. For every subject that's tested, they will have goal areas, and it just gives a breakdown of how the students do, whether they're low, low average, average, high average, or high. So we get an overall picture. How are our students doing? The next page, it will actually list the students. Like I mentioned before, this is just a sample, so these are not real. It provides a percentile range as well. Test duration. For the Lexile, this is specific to the reading, so it gives a level of difficulty in the reading passages. And for the goal performance, once again, this is for reading at this level. And so we'll have ranges for each of the goal performance sections. If there is a RIT range score here that's in italics, then that will show an area of relative weakness for the student. And if there is something in bold, it will be an area of relative strength. So not all students have those, but if there is one that's, maybe more concerning, lower scores, or exceptionally high, that is noted in that way. So this is the class report. All right, this is the final report I'll be sharing with you today. It's found on the Growth Reports page, and it is the Achievement Status and Growth, or ASG, projection or summary. We looked over the class report, and that really gauges, like we mentioned before, performance and achievement. This will focus on the other half of the MAP testing, which is the growth. So this will really help us as we set goals and expectations for our students. Fill out the information, just like before. You'll have different options for the growth comparison period. I'm going to go ahead and select a summary report. And then we have the option of either creating a PDF or a spreadsheet, but either of those works. And this is an excellent tool for us to see where our students are headed. So this is a sample of the Achievement Status and Growth projection that is found on the website. So I thought we could just go over briefly some of these components. Like I mentioned before, it's a projection and a summary. So we'll look at two different reports. This is a projection report. And so we are going to be comparing the fall of 2015 and trying to see where our students should be by winter of 2016. Okay, so it lists weeks of instruction. So before the fall test, there were 4 weeks of instruction. Before the winter of 2016, there are 20 weeks of instruction. So all of these numbers are added to the mix and providing the most accurate data for us. So in this case, we can see that they offer a number, a projected RIT score for each one of the students based on their grade level, based on how they scored initially in fall of 2015, and a projected growth. So how many RIT points they should be growing. On the next page, we can see an actual summary report. So this would be after they take the test. So they've taken now the winter 2016. They have the actual RIT scores and RIT ranges and percentile scores and percentile ranges. It offers still what that projected RIT was and the projected growth, and then the actual observed growth for all of these things. So this is all really important information to compare. We can see here that, for example, if you look at Drew, he scored 217. He was in the 79th percentile, and then in the winter, he scored 224 in the 91st percentile. The projected RIT for the winter of 2016 was 220. It was just 3 points higher, but the actual observed growth was 7. So he really blew that test out of the water. Good job, Drew. And this was the observed growth index. Did he meet the projected growth? Yes. And this was a conditional growth index. So this information is very good to just see how our students are growing and progressing. Oftentimes we get so fixated on how well the students do the performance, but we fail to recognize the growth that they're making. So this is what I really appreciate about these different data points. And at the end here at the bottom, we'll always have a summary, and this is for every subject. In this case, it's language usage. We can see the percentage of students who met or exceeded their projected RIT. So 81 and 0.8% of the class, in this case, either met or exceeded the projected RIT. So this is a wonderful number here. Percent of projected growth met, 137 and 0.5%. So you may be wondering, how in the world can you have over 100%, even though not all students actually met their projected RIT? And that's because of people like Drew, who exceeded 4 points beyond that, and so did Noni. And so when you average it all out, this is actually the percent of projected growth is higher than 100%, and this is what we want to see for our students. So this is just kind of like our little report card on the growth of how our students did. Really good information to look at and revisit every time our students take the test. and like above here, the projection, these are always good to look at before the students take their next test so that we can have a good gauge on what we can expect from the students and the students can actually set goals. So this is the ASG projection and summary report. In this final section, we'll be covering the student profile. Now, even though I saved this for last, I believe this is the most important, most valuable information that MAP offers to us as educators. And it's really where we should be spending most of our time. Go ahead and click on Student Profile. It'll ask you to select the roster term, the school, so on and so forth, and then you'll be able to view your student profile. Here we have a sample student profile for an imaginary student, Sadie Porter. I just wanted to show you the wealth of information that is available to us once our students take the MAP tests and the scores and the information start accumulating here. As you can see, there is a different tab for the different subjects from when the students have taken the tests. So in this case, math, reading. The reading tab is open now, language usage science. If you were to click on any of these tabs, it would open up a new window and have these major components. The first one is comparison. So it will provide for us the growth and achievement numbers for the student in this particular subject. We have instructional areas, and this is primarily for us. If you click on these little arrows on the side here, then these expand to full-size pages. And it'll provide suggested areas of focus, which standards our students need a little more help on. Also the relative strengths. And also finally there's a section on growth goals. And so this is an excellent opportunity for you to collaborate with your student to really have a shared learning experience where the students have a part in their instruction and in their learning. And so we see here there's a chart with growth over time depending on how long the students have taken the test. So in this case, Sadie has taken it from the 3rd grade all the way through 6th grade. You can see that progression. Just offers a really big picture for each student, how they're growing, what we need to focus on as teachers. So I would encourage you all to look at the student profile for each and every one of your students. At least one time after every time that the students take the MAP testing. And this will really help to inform what areas the students need help in, how to individualize some of the instruction for these students. And I know that it will be a huge blessing to those of us who take advantage of it.